I hope you're all ready for tonight's session and you have your pens and your papers ready and ready to take notes, although I will be sharing the presentation after the session on the module site. So without further ado, tonight's session is just to help you get ready for the exams. And I'm sure many of you at this stage feel very, very unprepared. So let's take a look at where we are and where we need to be. What is vitally important, number one, is that you know the date of your exams. It is the 23rd of May from 1 o'clock until 5 o'clock. That gives you 4 hours. So wherever you are living, wherever you may find yourself at this time, please, please, please make sure that you know what the load shedding schedule is. Because UNISA does not accept that you were in an area of load shedding at the time of your exams as an excuse. You are expected to be proactive and to arrange to be in an area where you will have uninterrupted connectivity. The second very important aspect that you have to take note of is that your exam will be proctored. We will be making use of the Invigilator app. You are third-year students, so at this stage, you are not unfamiliar with the Invigilator app. Having said that, I'm going to strongly advise that you again work through the student guide, which has been sent to you via your module site. Please prepare yourself to engage again with the Invigilator app. Prepare the space where you will be working. The Invigilator app is going to take 10 random recordings while you are doing your exam. And yes, it's an open book, but the recordings are there so that we protect the integrity of the examination. And the computer will pick up things like music or a baby crying in the background, or if somebody comes into the space in which you are working. If you turn off the microphone of your cell phone through which you are porting the app, it will be considered as a violation of the university rules. So please make sure that your app, your phone is loaded and charged and everything, and that your microphone is working. And then prepare your resources, your study guide, and any additional materials that you will be needing, either on your computer or in hard copy if you are able to do that. 23rd of May, 1 to 5 is your session. This is what the Invigilator app student guide looks like. Failure to use the app will mean you will not, even if you submit, the university will not release your marks, and you will be put through to the next exam opportunity. So please make sure that you use the app. I have sent you these guidelines via your module site. Now, these guidelines have the most important information in them. So please, please work through these guidelines and make sure that you take note of them. What I want to emphasize is the issue of plagiarism and doing your own work. Now, the exam rule says plagiarism is a violation of academic integrity, and students who plagiarize or copy from published work or make use of artificial intelligence software or other online resources, sources. In other words, you're copying directly, will be in violation. Now, that doesn't mean that you may not use your study guide or you may not use the additional resources I place on your module site. What this means is that you may use those additional resources, but you have to paraphrase. Please also don't take the chance of working together like sitting in the same room and sharing information. The app is also going to plot your GPS location, and there where we have where the app flags to people that are within 20 meters of each other, we will compare your exam script, and if you have copied, you will get a 0, and you will be put through the student disciplinary process. Now, those of you who are on the Telegram group will have seen this. I was unable to share this via the module site, so I shared it. I put it on the Telegram group, but it will now be in the presentation, so everyone has access to this. Don't worry about the little line in the inside. That is just the browser I use. So through this QR code, you can literally access all the resources that you need for the exam. So this QR code, by scanning it, it will take you to the My Exams portal or platform on My UNISA. No, sorry, not the My Exams platform, the My UNISA platform, which contains links to all of the guidelines. Every single thing you need to know about your exams can be found at this. So I do not want to hear, but I didn't know. I wasn't aware. At this stage, as I said, you are third-year students. None of this information should be new. So what should you do? Read through the student guide, this Invigilator app, the OWL, as some of you call it. Do the demo of the assessment on page 8. You can do that demo as many times as you want to. And in the past, many students have come back to me and said, wow, that app worked wonderfully. I did the demo about a week before the time, and I familiarized myself. So on the day of the exam, it wasn't difficult. So please take the initiative and do the demo. You will see there that 45 minutes, you will have 45 minutes to log into the app once the system opens. After this, the app closes. So when your exam starts at 1 o'clock, log into the app. You will get the QR code for the app. It will also be in your exam pack that you will receive on that day. Log into the app and then do the checks and balances that the app expects of you to do. Then you put your phone down and then you start working on your assignment. If you have not logged into the app an hour, if by 2 o'clock you have not logged into the app, you will not be able to do the exam. You will be able to do the exam, but you will not be able to upload because you are not uploading via the app. You must also upload via the app. There is a link there, Vimeo. It has a training video in which they explain to you how the app works. Make the effort and go and watch that video. On the day of the exams, anytime before that, here is a WhatsApp number for when or if you experience challenges with the Invigilator app. I cannot help you. It's not that I don't want to. I cannot help you with the exam on the exam day with the app. I cannot, because I don't work with the software. I don't have access to any of the systems. Only these people at that WhatsApp number will be able to help you with the app and challenges you have with the app on the day. So please take the number, write it down, and if you have challenges, but do the test before the time so that you can see how it works. And so if you pick up challenges, you can then notify the people who are working with the app. Okay, so that covers that. Before I go to the feedback from assignment 2 and the feedback tutorial letter, I want to pause quickly. I'm going to unmute your mics and I'm going to give you permission to to ask questions quickly. Let me just get to the settings. All right, I'm going to allow mics for everybody. Right, okay. If you want to ask a question, you can either put it in the chat box, you can write a question for me in the chat box, or you can raise your hand just about the Invigilator app, just about what I have dealt with now in terms of the content, in terms of the app, in terms of the day of your exam. Not yet feedback on the assignments, not yet assignment 2, not yet tutorial letter 202. Okay, I'm going to count down from 5, 4, 3, I'm not seeing any hands, 2, 1. Ah, okay, so we have a hand from oh, there the hand is gone. It was a Sharissa Green. Has she disappeared now? Okay, I have a question. Will I be penalized if I submit scripts that are not visible? Well, I can't mark something that's not visible, so it's not that you will be penalized. I cannot give marks for something I cannot see. So double check before you upload that your screenshots, whatever you took, are visible and are clear. Lishon Green, okay, you can unmute your mic and talk. So what's going to happen if you are working in a space and let's say your mom comes into your office and asks you, do you want some coffee? Or your husband walks past and says, you better get finished, we need to eat. Or if your child runs past your door and says, hi mom, hope you're having fun, the app is going to pick that up and it's going to be flagged. And then we listen to the recordings. And then I hear, okay, Kevish's child knocked on the door and said, Mom, when are we eating? So we will interrogate the recordings that the system picks up. But you will not be penalized for that. Any other questions? Any other questions? I get the feeling you don't want to ask questions simply because you want me to get to the feedback tutorial letter. Alrighty, so let's do the feedback tutorial letter. Okay, let me just move that to this side. All right, so I think this is what many of you came for. You will notice that your mics are still, you can speak and you can ask questions if you raise your hands. So let's carry on. So this is the feedback tutorial letters. At this stage, I am sitting with 15 totally corrupt files, and I'm sitting with a 30 that we have not yet marked because they were corrupt, and then the corrupt files were fixed. And we are sitting with, okay, in total about 129 assignments not yet finalized. So what I will be doing tonight, I will be going through this 129 assignments, and I will be double checking each one to make sure that I can see the whole assignment. I will be flagging the students' assignments that are either totally corrupt or totally blank, or we are unable to access at all. I will flag those students and I will send them an email. I will open the system and I will ask them to resubmit their assignments tomorrow. So by tomorrow morning, in your inbox, if you are one of the 129 who have not yet received your assignment 2, you will get an email tomorrow morning. And if you get an email tomorrow morning that says your assignment is corrupt, the system is open, please resubmit, then you please resubmit as soon as possible. I'm only going to open the system for 24 hours because, I mean, if you've done the assignment, you should be able to upload. You shouldn't have to scuttle around now and find additional answers. Having said that, these students who are being given an opportunity to resubmit, your assignments are going to be flagged because we are releasing the tutorial letter tonight. We are releasing this tutorial letter that contains the recommended answers tonight. So if you want to take a chance with your academic career, copy out of the tutorial letter. By all means, copy the answers. But when I catch you, I will make sure that you are charged and that you lose your opportunity to write the exams. One of the fundamental skills and character traits of a forensic detective is ethical conduct and honesty. So I expect that not one of the students will misbehave and be naughty and copy out of the feedback tutorial letter. So make sure, please, the 129 who have not yet received their feedback, only those that need to resubmit will get a notification tomorrow. Of the rest that do not get a notification, know, number one, that I am able to mark your assignment, and number two, we will be marking your assignment as soon as possible. You do not need your assignment necessarily to study for the exams because you are going to have the feedback tutorial letter. There are some fundamental aspects that I'm sure you will see in this tutorial letter that you must realize by now that you have to do. So let's take a look at what it is that we covered in the assignment. What's important about this assignment is that it is based on a case study. You will see the case study has names of people, there are dates, there are processes and procedures explained in the case study. So in this specific case study I'm giving you, I gave you in the assignment, you are a retired police official. Which tells you what? Which tells you that you were in the police, you know policy and procedure of the police, and you are familiar with investigative principles and the legislative parameters. The second thing to note is that you are doing an investigation under a policy misconduct. So this is not a purely criminal investigation. It's an investigation into an allegation of misconduct. Okay. What is important to note at the end here? No, we'll get there. We'll get there. So there is no criminal case being opened in this case. So there is no access to police resources. There's no access to a Section 205. There's no access to LCRC. None of that is available to you, in spite of the fact that you were a police official. Because there is no CAS number, you do not have access to those things that police officials have access to. Okay, so now you've looked at the footage and it's evident that Mr. Malan arrived on a day he was not scheduled to work. He's not allowed to be there. You're only permitted to be there during normal working hours. You got his registration number. You see on the CCTV footage the fuel containers that he removes. He makes a brief phone call. I'm sure you can guess why I put this in, but we'll chat about it just now. Then he gets into his bakkie and drives off through the gate. He uses his company access card to exit the building, and you realize you have to collect further evidence to corroborate the allegations. Now, why do we need to collect further evidence? Yes, we got all of this. We'll get there. After you conduct your preliminary investigations, you schedule a meeting with him to discuss the theft of the diesel. You may remember in FOR3601, you usually interview before you interrogate. Mr. Malan is a clear suspect, and you know that, but he does not know that you know that. He does not know what you have. So at this stage, it's cordial, and you have an interview with him. And so you want to get information about the incident. You ask him if he has any knowledge of the theft. Remember, establish a rapport, ask him how he's doing, and then you ask him, there was this theft. Do you have information? Do you have knowledge of the theft? And you give him chance to hang himself. You give him chance to talk. He says there's no knowledge, and often they say they weren't even there, and I mean, they were elsewhere. And then you present the photographic evidence, and he becomes shocked, and he blurts out that he was facing financial difficulties. So in other words, he basically admits to doing what you are accusing him of. And he will even show you where the diesel is dropped off at the premises of the loan shark. So that is your case study. Now, the first question is not based on the case study. The first question is about the components of a cellular network. It's a no-brainer. If you copied things like this, base stations, base transceiver, if you copied these words directly from the study guide, not a problem. If you copied this directly from the study guide, big problem. Because you are supposed to paraphrase. Let me just put this in another code. You are supposed to paraphrase this. Okay? So the gray, if it's a direct copy from the study guide, not a problem, because in how many ways can you say base station? You can only say it in so many ways. In how many ways can you say radio network controllers? Is only one term. But this has to be in your own words. A no-brainer for this. Okay, now we get to question 2. Okay, before I go to question 2, anything you want to clarify here? Anything? There shouldn't be questions because I'm sure it's very, very self-explanatory. Okay, so let's take a look at question 2. And this is where the interesting things start. We had a trial run of this question in assignment 1. You may recall it. So now we are doing it again. Identify any 5 resources. 5 resources. Okay, let me just change the color of that. that you as a corporate investigator may legally use to gather evidence in this case. These resources do not have to be mentioned in your study guide. So things like a polygraph, you can do mobile or static surveillance, you can use surveillance footage, the CCTV footage, the card swipe when he swiped with his card, you can use informers. So that's a resource. No? It's a resource. Now, some of you mentioned things like witness statements. Some of you mentioned, and I ask myself, is that really a resource or is that a technique? So we will interrogate those things, and I think for the most part we gave the benefit of the doubt. But I want you to notice this. This is very important in assignment 2. I'm going to highlight it here. This is very important in assignment 2 because this is going to be of vital importance in the examination. I'm giving you a bit of additional information here in terms of the answer. These do not count marks, but it's things that you must take into consideration when you are selecting these things. And one of the most important things is the return on investment. If the value of the 120 liters of diesel at the current price is 2,752 Rand, that's the value of the diesel that was stolen. How much is a polygraph going to cost? How much is it going to cost you to do surveillance? How much is it going to cost you to pay an informer? And that has to be weighed against the return on the investment. So look at that as well, hey? You have to prioritize the most important and reliable sources and avoid unnecessary or redundant methods. Okay. 2.2. Using the answers provided in assignment 2.1, you had to explain the evidential value of each of these. So in other words, if you use a polygraph, what is the evidential value of a polygraph? Polygraph, you can only use it in a disciplinary trial, provided the polygraph examiner is reputable and can come to the court and satisfy the disciplinary court now of their credentials. Mobile surveillance, what's the evidential value you are going to get there? And how will you be able to present that? And for each of the things you said, you have to give the evidential value of each of these resources, and it has to be relevant to 2.1. No sources here, hey? No sources. I think the sources we included at the end, yeah. Yeah, at the end. Okay. So 2.3, explain the low-card principle and how it applies to the case study. In assignment 1, we had the Lochner principle. In assignment 2, we have the low-card principle. So here is the recommended answer for the low-card principle. Every touch leaves a trace. He left traces of his actions. Filling the containers, traces were left on the footage, the card swipes, and there may even be traces of the tire tracks at the scene. Okay, so look where he touched, and there you will be able to perhaps get footprints that you can match to his shoes. You will not be able to get fingerprints because you don't have access to LCRC. And once again, insert a source here. because you are answering from the study guide. 2.4, discuss whether the use of a polygraph would be a viable option to gather evidence of the alleged misconduct. So it is known as a lie detector test. It's a valuable tool in an investigation. Let me just change the color here. It's a valuable tool in any investigation to determine if he's deceitful or not. It can confirm if he was involved in the theft. It's important to note that you can't use it in court, but it may be used in a disciplinary hearing, subject to specific requirements. Now, some of you said, no polygraph, because the guy admitted. He said, yes, oh dear, it was me. He immediately blurted out. So no polygraph will be over the top. Do you know how many people in the heat of that moment says, oh, you know what? I did it. It was me. I did it. And then you get to the court case, or you get to the pointing out, or you get to wherever, and he says, I didn't do it. I didn't say that. Or he says, but you tortured me and you made me all sorts of promises. You cannot trust this guy. You cannot, because he now blurted out that he did it, trust that he will be honest from here on and tell you the truth from here on. He's already been caught being deceitful. How can you trust him going forward? The simple answer is you can't. You cannot. So quality evidence. Even if you have him on the CCTV footage, he can deny that is him. That's one piece of evidence. Get all the evidence that you can against him. Do the polygraph. If there is finances for the polygraph. In this instance, in this specific instance, a polygraph is most certainly a viable option. It asks, discuss whether the use of the polygraph would be a viable option to gather evidence. He has the right to say, I refuse to take the polygraph. But this is about whether it's a viable option. If you write to me, the polygraph, no, it's not a viable option, because he can say no. By all means, he can say no, but you were supposed to explain that the polygraph, while he has the right to say no, it is a viable option because A, B, C, and D. But yes, he has the right to say no. But there are court cases, decided court cases, where staff have refused to take a polygraph, because you may subject staff to polygraphs to which they may refuse when there is an issue of confidentiality or trustworthiness. And there are decided cases where the person has simply refused, and then the company has gone through the process of having them dismissed, and their dismissal stands up at the CCMA and at the Labour Court. Because of the fact that the issue goes about the trustworthiness and the honesty. So once again, source here, please. You were supposed to put a source here. Okay, that covers question 2. Question 3, discuss in your own words, whether it is permissible. Let me just change the color here. Whether it's permissible to use the pointing out of the crime scene where the diesel was delivered to gather evidence. So first of all, is it permissible? You had to say, what is a pointing out? You had to say the evidential value of a pointing out. You had to say the admissibility requirements of the pointing out, and whether you as a corporate investigator may conduct the pointing out. Okay. So while your answer must not address the specific activities, you have to demonstrate that you understand the legal framework that governs the pointing out of the crime scene. It must also reflect that you understand the appropriate actions that you as a corporate investigator should take to ensure that the process is conducted within the bounds of the law. So first of all, what is a pointing out? For 2 marks, explain what is a pointing out. Then you had to explain the evidential value. The pointing out may serve as evidence, provided it's legally, freely and voluntarily done. He has not yet been arrested, but his offer to drop off, to point out the drop-off, may be accepted, provided it was made freely and voluntary without promise of leniency or other benefit. At this time, you may not be focused on gathering evidence against the loan shark. Remember, if the company later decides, once your investigative report is in, to say, okay, we're going to nail this guy, we're going to go after this guy, then you will have to open a criminal case, because the loan shark is not a member of the company. You cannot touch him with a disciplinary investigation. So it might be beneficial to get that evidence. And the value of the pointing out will then be a vital piece of evidence. So look forward as well. Admissibility in terms of Section 209A of the Criminal Procedure Act, freely and voluntary. You must not make any promise of leniency or benefit. You, as the investigator, may not be involved in the pointing out, neither by any of the in-house staff members who have prior knowledge of the crime. You may not use the services of an interpreter who had prior knowledge of the investigation if you need, and any documentation has to reflect the accurate details of all the parties involved. In addition, you must be familiar with Section 35, which explains the rights of the suspect. You were a police official, and this is where it comes in. So there is no decided court cases, criminal court cases, in which the court has said, but because you were a police official, let's imagine you do not warn Mr. Malan according to his rights. Even if you were a police official, and you get to court and you offer your evidence, yes, you offer your evidence, and the court asks you, but did you warn him of his rights? And you say, no, you didn't. And the court says, but you were a police official. Why did you not warn him according to his rights? What are you going to say? So my recommendation is you warn him according to his rights. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to not say anything, but if you say anything, whatever you say will be taken down in writing and may be used against you later. You have the right to an attorney. And these are the rights that police officials, it's called the judge's rules. These are the rights that the police officials usually read to the suspects when they arrest them. So in this instance, with the pointing out, inform the person of their rights, but there is not yet any decided court case in which the case has been dismissed or thrown out, or the evidence has been rejected because a corporate investigator did not warn a person in terms of their rights. There is not yet a court case like that. But I would recommend that you do it so that you can cover yourself. You must also be aware of the standard of proof that you need to comply with in terms of the disciplinary hearing. Note the value of the stolen diesel is less than the benchmark of the Poker Act, so it does not have to be reported to the police. If the value of the diesel was in excess of 100,000 rands, then in terms of the Prevention of Organised Crime Act, the company has no choice. They have to report it to the SAPS. have a recording of the interview that transpired before Mr. Malan admitted his involvement. Having a recording will be beneficial. If Mr. Malan provided you with a statement that he will do the pointing out, it's beneficial, but this does not always happen. And then you insert a source here, very important. And that, in a nutshell, contains your answer for the last question. Okay, remember, this is the recommended answer. This is thematically what we were looking for. If your answer is not aligned with the recommended answer, but it's relevant to this, it speaks to this. If you mention other aspects here that is not in the memo, but it's relevant and you have not changed or diverted from the framework of the case study, not a problem. Okay, let me now take questions from you. Are there any questions? Can I have raised hands or questions in the chat? Okay, the first one, I have a guest. I cannot see your name. So guest 679444655, please ask your question. Hello? Oops. Hello? Hello? I can see you, but I can't hear you. Hello? Can anybody else, by show of hands, hear guest 679? I'm unable to hear. Please mute yourself and unmute yourself again. Perhaps that will activate. Okay. Nope, I'm still not able to hear. Leandri, can I ask you, can you hear our guest? Just by a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Okay, there isn't a thumbs down.
Hi, Prof. No, I can't hear you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Pleasure.
Guest, I'm not sure what the problem could be, but from my experience, what sometimes happens is the mic malfunctions. Try leaving and coming back, and we see perhaps that will sort the situation out. Okay, I still see your hand is raised. Okay. Okay, while we wait for guests to leave and to rejoin, please, can I have other questions? Okay, I'll type my question. Will you provide us with a template for the exam? I will not be providing you with a template for the exam because you are third years and therefore you do not need a template. Your exam should have a cover page. It does not have to have a table of content. And then you simply start answering the questions on the very next page. So no, unfortunately, no template will be provided. Yes, Leandri, it is open book, so you use the same reference method. as you did for these assignments. That's a very broad statement. I would prefer that you use the School of Criminal Justice referencing style. So some of you used footnotes and you were penalized for that because we are not in the school of law. We are in the School of Criminal Justice, and I've repeatedly said we do not use footnotes. You are third-year students, and by this stage you should know that for your law modules you use footnotes, and in criminal justice modules you use in-text referencing, and you have to have a table of content. Okay. Other questions, please? I'm starting to feel very alone on this site. So it seems like you guys weren't as worried as you made me believe, because there are hardly any questions. Okay. I'm not going to belabor the point any longer. It's if there are no more questions, then I should end the session so that we can get back to what's important, and I can start working through those other assignments. But before I do that, let's quickly take a look at the exam. I want to talk to you quickly about the exam, and I want to stop sharing that. Let me go back to the tutorial letter. So that I can schedule that. Okay. So your exam, you now know that your exam is going to be on the 23rd of May. You will be writing from 1 o'clock until 5 o'clock. As I said previously, it's an open book exam, so you can use your study guide. Please make use of the additional guidelines or additional resources I have posted on your module site. They are not there because I have nothing better to do. I hope that you hear what I'm saying. Make use of the additional resources I have placed on the module site. Thematically, your module consists of 5 chapters. Focus on the themes that we covered in the assignments. You will be getting a case study. I have requested that I be permitted to share the case study with you a day before the exam, because it's a 2-page case study with quite a bit of detail in. I'm just waiting for go ahead on that. I have not yet got permission. Tubile, please unmute yourself and ask away. Tubile, you can mute yourself and ask. Tubile, you need to unmute yourself. Or you can type your question in the chat box if you want to. Okay, while we're waiting for Tubile to either unmute themselves or to write in the chat box. Okay, awesome. Tubile will ask here. Okay, Tubile, you can type and then I will check your question. So your exam will have a case study. Read your questions carefully. Make sure that you relate whatever you say in the answer to the case study. Please remember, when you do a disciplinary investigation, you may not access Section 205s. You may not access LCRC. But the moment that there is a CAS number, in other words, a formal criminal complaint has been opened at the police station, then you will have access via the detective to a Section 205, to LCRC, to all the bells and whistles that police officials have access to. Remember that differentiation. Make sure that you reference, and make sure that you have a reference list at the end. I'm going to be very strict with the in-text references and very strict with the reference list at the end. You will lose marks if, number one, you either do not reference at all, or if your references are so incorrect that it's a total deviation from our style. If there is like a space error, or there is a comma error, or something small like that, I will be willing to overlook that. But as far as possible, accuracy in your references is very, very important. I'm still waiting for...
Good evening. Sorry, I was
Not a
struggling
problem.
to unmute myself on the laptop.
Awesome.
So you, oh, I forgot. Okay, so you mentioned that you're not supposed to talk, or like there mustn't be any disruptions, going back to the Invigilator app and stuff like that. So what happens if you're a person that when you read the question, you read it out loud? Is that a problem?
That's not a problem. The system will pick it up. You will be flagged. And when we interrogate it, we will say, okay, Tubile is chatting with herself. It's fine. It's fine. Okay.
Thank
But
you.
try and not make work for me. Try and talk to yourself in your head. But you know what? No, we interrogate all the recordings, and to differentiate from when Tubile is talking to herself, or when Bernadine is chatting with a fellow student next to her and they are discussing the best way to answer a question.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, pleasure. I can see that there are no further questions. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to stop the session so that you guys can get to what you were doing. I want to remind you that I will be going through the 129 not yet returned assignments. Some of them are still marked as corrupt, some of them still marked as in various stages. I will be making sure that each of these that I have on my laptop, I can open before I release the tutorial letter. If I find any assignment that I can't open, so for example, if I find Leandri, and I'm just using you as an example, I cannot open her assignment at all. I will open the system manually for Leandri, and I will tell her she has extension until tomorrow evening at 12. Then she can upload again. I will cancel what's on the system, and then Leandri can take her assignment and upload it again. Of the students who receive such an email in their My Life accounts tomorrow morning, I will flag you and I will monitor whether you have taken the tutorial letter and copied, or if you have been honest, as I expect you to be, and not even looked at the tutorial letter because you have submitted what you have in your possession already. So I'm really going to count on your honesty and integrity here, and believe that you will not default yourself. So that, in a nutshell, is that. I have, just before the session, released about 40, 50, 60 assignments that were in the moderation, that were under moderation. So I've released them, so you can go and double check again whether your assignment, which was perhaps under moderation, has already been returned. Lee, what is the possibility that our exam scripts can become corrupt? This is stressing me. Well, Lee, if you think you stressed, can you imagine how stressed I am? Because if the system does this again, I swear I'll run away. Yeah, so jokes aside, I don't know. What is the possibility of getting hit by a bus tomorrow? I don't know. But if it happens, big if it happens, we will follow a very similar process to get the submissions fixed or uncorrupted or whatever the case might be. But I do recall from previous sessions that this has never happened in an exam. Here and there, a student decides to password protect a PDF file, and then exams contact the person for the password. But this type of thing has never happened during an exam. So we stand in faith and that this will not happen again. So I cannot give you the assurance, but we just hope it doesn't happen again. But if it does happen, we will deal with it, and it will not be the end of the world, and the university will deal with it. So don't stress. Please don't let this be something that stresses you. Karabu, I see you want to ask something. Okay. Any other questions? No other questions. Karabu, you unmuted. Did you want to ask something? I have a hand. Happiness, please talk to me. Unmute yourself and talk to me.
Hi, Prof.
Hi.
I just want to ask, I did receive my results for assignment at question 2.3.
Yeah. Come again. You did
Yes,
receive your results? All I got is you did
Yes, I
receive your
did receive
results?
Oh, sorry about that. I received my results for assignment 2. I think it was 2 weeks ago, but then question 2.3 was not marked. The rest were marked, but it's only one question that is not marked.
Okay. I'm going to ask that you send that to me via email, because it could be that it was one of those examples where one page becomes corrupt. But what the lecturers then do is we go to the original submission and we mark from there. And then we just give you a little note to say, this page was blank. I marked 2.1 and you got so many marks, and then we embed the marks. So just double check that they didn't perhaps do that, because then there should be a little comment there. Otherwise, send me an email with your marked script and I will take a look at it.
All right. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Any other questions? Happiness, your hand is still raised. Is it an old hand, or do you still want to ask something else?
It's an old one.
Okay, all right. Okay, Any other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Let me just double check quickly if there were questions on here. So what is also going to happen is that for the duration of the exam, I'm going to ask that the admin mute the Telegram group so that there will be no discussions on the Telegram group for the period of the exam. If you have a challenge, that's not the Invigilator app, that's not load shedding, but if you have any other challenge, you must use your My Life email to communicate me. Don't send me a WhatsApp. I am not going to be able to communicate with you via WhatsApp. Send me an email, please. What else did I want to say? If there's a challenge with the Invigilator app right at the end, and some students have picked up this challenge, we will have a contingency link where you will be able to access and upload via the contingency link if something happens and you are totally unable to upload your assignment or your exam through the app. So yes, I think that is it. That is all I have for you. I will release the tutorial letter once I'm satisfied that all the assignments can be read. And then, no, I said I'm going to release the tutorial letter directly after the session tonight. I also just want to ask that for those of you who will be willing to send me an email to tell me how you found tonight's session and what I can do better and whether it was helpful, to just send me an email. I did the previous one, I did a link, and students weren't interested in using the link, so I'm hoping that you would be interested in sending me an email rather. So guys, have fun. Have a good rest tonight. I hope you can rest, and then we will see each other probably on Monday when I'm sharing the Invigilator app with you and possibly the case study. So I'm going to end the recording and I'm going to